All right, this one's going to be kind of short because it's more about, less about an actual thought on video games or video gaming. Which one would be the right one to say? Doesn't matter. More a brief bit on the actual segment itself. Because my original intention with it was to do one every single day for an entire year. That's why on my computer I labeled it the 365 Nostalgia Project. But obviously there was a good chunk of time where I just kind of dropped off. Not only from doing this, but from putting anything up on YouTube. That was a while ago. Been much more consistent. And now that I'm into this routine, I don't want to stop. I'm loving it. It's just fun. I keep comparing it to exercise. It's the same kind of idea. Just like once you get into a good routine, you don't want to stop, man. You feel way too good doing it, and you feel like crap when you don't. Maybe that's an addiction, but I think it's a healthy one. It's a creative one at the very least. But in regards to thoughts on gaming, I'm interested to see how far I can do this. My intent right now is to do it the exact same way that I do the video uploads, which is 5 days a week. And I'm toying with the idea of possibly doing it on the weekends as well, because in terms of the editing process, this is by far the easiest thing to do. It's only got an audio element, although that may change in the future. We'll wait and see. One step at a time. I mean, sometimes you gotta run before you can crawl, but in this case, it is very much baby steps. Actually, it's small baby steps. It's still crawling, basically. It's not standing on its own feet yet, I think. Where's this analogy going? Anyway, that's the intention with it, that for every day that I'm going to be putting up an actual Let's Play video, one of these bad boys is going to accompany it. The challenge, of course, being the challenge that it's always been from the very beginning, which is, can I come up with something that is creative or interesting to me? Because if it is, then I feel like it's worthwhile to put it out there to you. And so far, it's been going really well, I think. I mean, I know for the last... Oh, geez, I actually got to look at my computer for this right now. For the last 5 episodes, they've really kind of gone one after the other. I'd say for the last 3 or 4, I've actually recorded them one after the other, like exactly that way, just because I'd be talking about something, and then mid-recording, something would go into my head like, oh my God, I want to talk about that too. But that's like, no, okay, if I jump into that right now, it's going to throw off the flow of this entire idea in this episode. And I mean, if you've listened to them, you know well enough that I get derailed all the time when I'm doing them anyways. I'm very talented at sidetracking myself because there's so much stuff just firing through my mind that sometimes it's hard to keep track. Although, on that note, maybe I should actually bring notes with me when I do this kind of thing. Just jot down some bullet points so I know exactly where I'm going and where I come from. But at the same time, I'm not sure that would be the way to go, at least not for all of them, because a lot of the time, I'm just going into this with the roughest idea of what I want to talk about, and everything else that gets into the recording is just coming out of my mouth, from my brain, in that moment. It's very, very spontaneous. I wouldn't go so far as to call it organic. I know a lot of people will throw that term around for anything that's just genuine and happening in the moment, but it's kind of like, I don't know if it's organic. I mean, you can't see this right now, but I'm holding a Deadpool mug with coffee, so I mean, I think that kind of does away with the whole organic thing. Still a little bit left in that, yeah. I guess with the caffeine, that kind of makes it chemically enhanced, in a sense. But hey, helps me get through the day and it wakes me up. I'm all right with that. But you know what I mean. It's very improvised. There we go. There's a good word for it, using that lexicon of grammatical awesomeness that I have stored up in the library of my mind. Try saying that 5 times fast. But it's something that I want to keep on doing because it is a fun mental exercise. It's a good talking... Oh man, that's kind of a redundant thing, isn't it? It's a good discussion starter, and hopefully it inspires some good conversations for you, or gets you thinking about these ideas in a different way. Maybe you agree, disagree, or come out with something completely unrelated, but just hearing these kind of thoughts and mind ramblings that I got going on does something for you creatively. Even beyond this, the idea of how these apply to video games. if it does something for you creatively, I'm happy with that. For me, this is just an opportunity to take these thoughts that I have knocking around inside my head and toss them out there because I think they might be interesting. I hope they might be interesting. It's an opportunity to exercise my social muscles and see if I can get this idea across in a concise way that is interesting, relatable, but also makes sense, which if you've ever tried to convey an idea that you've got deep inside your head, that can be a challenge. It makes sense to you because this sounds kind of redundant, but you're you. You live inside your own mind. Everything in there makes sense, more or less. But when you try to take an abstract idea and give it physical form by conveying it to somebody else, that can be a real challenge, almost to the point of it's like you landing in a new world and trying to converse with a native alien population that doesn't even speak the same language. You're doing everything you can to try to get your point across. And hopefully, somewhere in the mix of weird sounds, facial expressions, and dramatic gestures, it gets to home base and they understand what you're trying to say, or at the very least, they have an appreciation for what you're trying to convey. And then after a lot of hassling and trading of goods and hopefully we're going to come to Earth and go Independence Day on your ass, there's an understanding. That really went far from my whole discussion of what this Thoughts on Gaming project is all about and more into talking with alien species. Like I said, I sidetrack myself very, very easily. But so less of a conversation about an idea I had and more of, I guess, an update as to where things are right now and hopefully where they're going to be because, this was the point I wanted to make. We're back. The end goal for this, I'm not sure how long it will go on past this point, which is I'd like to do 365 episodes of this. So one for each day of the year. Obviously, it's not going to be one for every day of the year for this year because there was that huge chunk of time where I didn't put anything up. But overall, I want the number of episodes in it to total up a year. Partly because I feel that would be more than enough in terms of discussion material. Also, it's a personal challenge for me to see if I can actually do that. Can I, within myself, come up with enough interesting material on this particular idea to fill an entire year? And if I can, awesome. And at that point, once I hit 365, I'm going to have to reevaluate whether it's something worth continuing because even before I hit that number, I feel like there is a very good chance, if I haven't already, that I'm going to start talking over myself and repeating points and ideas that I've already brought up, which is why I try to go through everything before I record just to make sure, and I do have a list, just to make sure I'm not going over the same points twice. On the other hand, as time goes on, it might be worth doing because opinions, ideas, they change. Things will happen that will take something that you were concrete about and turn it on its head. And if that happens, then it is worth discussing. But if I'm just going to go on again about how much I love Harvest Moon or how I think Final Fantasy II is a delightfully broken game, because I've said that at least 3 or 4 times already, maybe that's been said enough and it's time to put that one to bed and, leave it where it lies. But anyway, just a little bit of an update on the segment itself. So that was all I wanted to get across. Hopefully you're having a great day. And until next time, my name's Rye. You take care of yourselves.